Frank Figliuzzi, what do you see? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think a couple of things are going on, and none of them are good. First, I think we're looking at what I'm calling the China trap, which is that politically, the Republicans are going to try to force the hands of the Democrats by saying it's an either-or equation. You either are with China or you're with the president. And I'm here to remind people like Biden and Pelosi that you don't need to fall for that trap. You can simultaneously distrust everything coming out of China, and you should be critiquing and questioning everything coming out of the Trump administration. This country of ours has gone to war in our lifetime, Nicolle, invaded other countries because of either fabricated intelligence, faulty intelligence, or ignored intelligence. I only need to remind folks about our invasion of Iraq, and that at the time we did that, Saddam Hussein was found by the intelligence community after the fact to not have truly possessed weapons of mass destruction. I'm not saying we're about to go to war with China. I'm saying I think we're about to see the perversion of the intelligence process for a political benefit, and I'm very, very concerned about it.
I want you to say more, and I take your point about, I think you're making a point about WMD and Iraq and the actions our government took, but I want you to say more about not going to war per se with China. We may very well need their help if a vaccine is created and we want to inoculate our entire country. I mean, just talk about the stakes of this sort of escalating rhetoric about China.
Well, I have to wonder, without being overly dramatic, whether the stakes have ever been higher with regard to the president's adherence to intelligence and whether or not reporting is accurate. We're talking about having already more deaths than during the Vietnam War. So when our scientists and epidemiologists are trying to race toward a vaccine, it helps if they know where this thing came from, what it looked like originally and how it has mutated, who patient zero really was or was not. This is a time when we need to actually cozy up to China and cajole them into letting us in and telling us the truth. So now when you hide behind what must be extremely classified intelligence, if it even exists at all, we're talking intercepts, we're talking human sources inside China. And if, in fact, they're reporting that, hey, this came from the lab, well, now we can see a game being played. Well, the White House will say, we can't expose these very sensitive sources, but you need to trust us. Well, guess what? This is a time where you need to lay the cards on the table. The other thing, Nicolle, is I'm looking to what we call the Five Eyes in the intelligence business, the other close allies of us, UK, Australia, New Zealand, right? And I hear nothing coming out of those allied services saying, hey, we also are hearing it came from the lab. We're hearing zero from them.
You know, Kim, two questions for you. One, this feels like such treacherous territory to be on. Already, there have been reports in the New York Times and LA Times and other news organizations about just this uptick in xenophobic attitudes and behavior toward Asian Americans. And the second would be that it is just another example. There are more instances of Donald Trump not believing the intel than believing them. So the fact that he and Pompeo are out on a limb, they've already been reeled in terms of a public statement put out by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence saying that's not where the community is. It just, you know, where there's smoke, there isn't always fire, but there's certainly a lot of smoke around their comments about China.
Absolutely. And you're right. To your first point, there is a real consequence of jumping out ahead of the intelligence to blame China for things that we don't know they've actually done. As you said, that there has already been an increase in incidents against Chinese Americans and Asian Americans, not just here in America, but across the world. You also have the World Health Organization warning against assigning a geographic location to the name of this. But still, this isn't new. This is a part of a pattern on the part of both President Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo. Recall back in March at the G7 summit, Secretary Pompeo was calling the virus the Wuhan virus, and other G7 leaders declined to do the same. This was the same time that President Trump from the podium at the White House was calling it the Chinese virus. And so there was always been this urge, this this desire on the part of the White House to blame China for this. The president always says that he banned travel from China and that saved millions of lives without providing any evidence of that. He didn't ban travel, he limited it, but just really trying to put the blame there and away from the administration. So in that sense, it has been part of a pattern that Secretary of State Pompeo has been more than willing to engage in.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.